everybody.
I always laugh when that banner's over your face. Hey, everyone, we're here. It's I almost said it's Tuesday, but it's actually Thursday. Welcome to this edition of the Night Bite.
Yeah, I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we are really excited to be here tonight because we are we're talking with somebody that I love fishing with. So, usually we take the first few minutes and we try to talk about, events that are happening, if there's tournaments going on, all of that good stuff. Open water is we are at that transition right now. So some of you are not there. I know our river is really opening up and I'm excited for that. But if you are planning events or know of events that are coming up in spring or in summer, share that with us because we're interested to hear what's going on when open water does arrive. Otherwise, come and leave your comments in our comment section. Ask questions along the way. We're going to do a lot of fish talk tonight. And I cannot wait for that. So let us know what you guys are thinking as well.
So I suppose without further ado, here is Mr. Brian Clairmont. Hey, Brian. Whoa. Just a second.
Josh had you muted. Try again.
He had me nude?
Muted.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm in my happy place. I got open water.
You got open water.
Yes, you
that is
do.
Exciting. So, before we get to that, I guess one of my questions always is, if there's somebody out there who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Brian Clairmont. I've been a fishing guide for 22 years now, so I kind of think I know what I'm doing. Maybe.
Maybe.
I got to say, you got a lot of fish on your wall. Not necessarily behind you immediately, but I can attest to the fact that you can fish. So I'll say it's better than a maybe.
You've been in the boat a couple times. You guys know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then remind us your location.
I'm on the Menominee River. I'm here in Marinette, Wisconsin. I'm actually a Uber. I just moved across the river.
Oh, okay.
And you were saying that, you don't have ice anymore, that you're back to open water.
Well, there is ice, but after looking through a hole all winter long, I just can't wait to be in open wide spaces. So I've been banging on the Browns pretty good and getting a few walleyes. I say this week the walleye should really pick up.
That's awesome.
That's actually a really fun thing. Not everyone gets a chance to get out and do that. So tell us a little bit about fishing for browns.
Well, the browns last about 10 days of the spring. They're actually, as the ice is just coming off the river, they're spawning. So they're in the river for roughly 10 days, and then I jump to the walleyes. But them browns are fun. That's just dragging crankbaits. My flatline troll. I don't like using planer boards, so it's all, and then twisting through to get them baits where the motor didn't run over because those browns were real spooky.
Well, and I know that I've seen videos of you some years, like crossing over the ice with your boat to get to the water, to launch in order to get to some of those browns. But this year, you're not having to do that?
Well, the ice left so fast this year. I was actually shooting with Larry for a pike show, which aired here this last weekend. So I was just a couple days behind because I was doing that last fish thing with him. And, that wind picked up. It got nice and it opened the river right up real quick. So I didn't have to drag the 12-footer across the ice to get at him this year.
That's awesome.
He's on the back sitting in that 12-footer.
That is really cool, though, to watch the videos of when you do have to cross over the ice like that, because, it is such a fun fish to catch. But, that's a lot to go through in order to launch a boat and to possibly get that bite. So, that's a really cool thing when you have especially somebody like a guide like you who has done that before.
Well, with me, when there's open water, there's a way to get there and get a line in there. I'm going to do it because, like I said, looking through a hole, I'm claustrophobic from all winter. So, and my strong point is in the boat, much more so than on ice.
And then with the browns, is that still going on, or that's kind of ending here?
Yeah, a couple more days. It's not, like the first couple times I get out, I always catch a limit. The first 2 times because they're in there real good, and there's been nobody else pestering them, so they're a lot easier to catch. So the first couple times I hit them really good, and then you'll pick, 2, 3, 4, 5 off, depending on how they're still in there. And then now when I move to jigging for walleyes, we'll always catch a few browns too, because they're sliding back down the river, going back out to the deeper water. So I'll always pick a few off jigging too.
Well, and you kind of have a popular spot down there where you kind of visit. I guess I won't give that all away. But do you have tips for walleyes coming up here?
Yeah. Right now, if you're going to start fishing, like say you start fishing this weekend, now's the time to get them owner, because they're all full of eggs. They're nice and fat. It's a lot harder to catch them before they spawn than it is after they spawn, of course, because they're not, they're worried about reproducing. But my favorite jig is a stand-up jig or a current cutter jig, and always use a stinger hook. And I like vertical, straight up and down, nice and slow. Just pop her along, and just can't wait for that bite.
So are you moving at that point with the current? Are you stationary?
I slip with the current. A lot of these guys use, the bow mount. I got a bow mount too. I use it some, but I got a back troller. So I slip with the current and stay vertical. Depending on the current, I'll always use a lighter jig than everybody else in the boat. So if I know I can keep that lighter jig straight up and down, whoever I have in a boat, clients, friends, whatever, if they got a heavier jig, if I can keep it vertical, then I know if they got a heavier jig, they can keep it vertical. And that's key to setting a hook on fish.
Well, and that's exactly what I even hear. We're on the Wolf River, so kind of a whole different river than where you're at, but it's amazing the similarities that can take place. So I guess one thing is a cool thing about going out with a guide is, you learn something along the way. And like you're saying, though, applying that to our river system, staying vertical like that is huge for us too. And that's the other thing that I'm hearing, use as light of a jig as you can, but it's so important to still feel that bottom. So to some extent, you have to use a heavy enough jig as well.
And it depends on skill level too. Somebody that doesn't jig all the time, you're going to want to give them a heavier jig to start out with, because then they get the feel for, hitting that bottom and picking it up. And you can always go a little lighter later on, but if you're somebody that's not jigged a lot, start them out with a heavier jig to stay vertical.
And then I'm assuming that your bait is minnows at that point.
Plastics and minnows. Some days you don't need a minnow. Some days it's all plastics. And, you gotta let the fish tell you what kind of mode they're in. What mood they're in, what they're biting on. Stingers are a must in the spring because it's a lot of light bites. I've had days out there. I'm sure you guys know Jody Corks, one of my buddies. I'll give an instance. We were out there one day. It's a few years ago. We had stingers on. We caught 30 fish that day. 29 of them fish came on a stinger hook. One fish hooked on a regular jig hook. So it had been a 1 fish day or a 30 fish day. So that just tells you how important them stinger hooks are.
Wow. And so then are you buying kind of like a pre-made stinger hook? Are you making your own?
I tie my own.
And so what does that look like?
Me, I make all my own jigs. I paint all my own jigs, tie all my own stinger hooks. Here's one of my favorites right here.
Oh, okay.
And here's another tip for when you're done from like last year. When you rig these up, see there's a stinger on here too. See if I can find the camera. You can see the stinger. If you take your plastic, see how I got it pushed up? When I was done last year, I was smart and I pull the plastic back. Now this year, go back to fish it. I'll push it back on there. Now it's ready to go. If you leave that on there for a year, it'll wreck your jig. You'll have paint reaction on the rubber. You guys know that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little tip to save some jigs. Now that jig's all ready to go again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And as far as your stinger hooks, how are you making them?
Size 10 with a 10-pound piece of fluorocarbon. I know it's really hard to see here, but you can see that's a stinger. And then it gets tied onto the jig. And I'm not going to try to tie it now because my eyes aren't as good and the lighting ain't that good. But I put my plastics on here. I'll do one right here for you guys.
You want your glasses?
Huh? No, I can see. And what I do when I put these on there is I take a little pair of scissors and I just clip the end so you got a nice flat end. So it sneaks up close to the jig. and then thread it on there. So I do it up with the camera here. Slide it on like that, and then the stinger hook gets tied on afterwards. But I'm not even going to attempt that because my eyes ain't as good as it used to be. And then it gets tied on there like that.
Cool.
That's awesome.
The jig rig.
And I'm noticing that your stinger hook is maybe a smidge shorter than some people make theirs. But that's the thing is, you know, when you're kind of putting your own together, that's something that you can kind of pick and choose. So in your opinion, is there a perfect size or length for a stinger hook?
You know, it depends on the size of the bait you're using. I like them short. It just seems like it's a better, you know, when you're missing them fish without a stinger, you're just missing them by a little bit. So just having that little stinger hook off, you know, an inch and a half, 2 inches off that just makes the world of difference. Now, if you're using a bigger shiner, then you might want to have it a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
it's all preference. Like I said, again, you gotta let the fish tell you what's going on.
Well, and I love exactly what you're saying about, you know, when you miss that bite, when it's a short bite like that, you know, you are just barely missing that hook by that little bit. And, you know, so when people make those really long stinger hooks, you know, you of course can hook that into, you know, however long or short that minnow or that plastic is or isn't. But especially in a river system, if you have a stinger hook that makes like a loop below the bait or something, you know, you don't want to get snagged on anything. You don't want to get caught on anything. You know, you don't need a whole nother reason to just, I mean, it's a river system. You lose jigs as it is. So.
Yeah, everybody's good at losing jigs. It ain't too bad. It's not really too bad down here, depending on where you're fishing. And then too, by being vertical, it's a lot less snaggy too. When you're straight up and down, you snag a lot less. Now with that stinger hook too, you can tie them longer. You just got that line bag when you hook it in there, and sometimes it makes a difference. Sometimes it don't.
Right. Well, and we are hearing a lot of feedback in the comments about people are catching their fish on stinger hooks as well. So, you know, I've seen myself even go out for a few fishing trips and been stubborn and, you know, not used them the way that I should. But especially when you are hearing the testament of people that it makes a difference, it's hard not to want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I swear by them. Like I said, I just told you one story. I could tell you 100 stories where if we didn't have stingers, we wouldn't have caught nearly as many fish.
The other thing that you're talking about here is using plastics. And so what are the plastics that you use?
Well, you guys all know Johnny Lemmer, Extreme Plastics. So he takes good care of me. He's actually a sponsor of my guide service. So, and actually what I was doing is I was taking a twister tail and cutting a tail down before I met John and making my own kind of tails on them. But then John had these, which got the little tail exactly like how I want it.
Nice.
Right there.
So that's like a darker profile than, you know, I tend to use. Is that like a rusty red color maybe that you're using? What other colors of plastics are your go-tos?
Greens, yellows, red, of course. Again, it depends on light penetration during the day. It depends if the sun is nice and high in the sky. And even too, you know, it can be different every day. You just, like I said, you got to let the fish tell you what they want. If you follow what the fish tell you, you'll almost always be successful.
You know, that's an interesting point because sometimes people go out and they don't get a bite at all. And then it's hard to know what the fish are telling you. So, you know, how do you handle a situation where the fish aren't biting or are really tight-lipped?
Well, I'm very anal at putting fish in the boat. You guys know that. I want to put as many fish in the boat as possible. So, like, we'll switch to crankbaits now. We'll talk about a little bit of night trolling. You know, I'm running of course, my BAC walleye leader here, which is a piece of lead core, a piece of fluorocarbon. Now, when you're running crankbaits like this, I get a lot of fish. I get a reaction strike out of them. They may not be hungry, but I'm really good at knowing how to get a reaction strike out of that fish. Now, when you're trolling in a straight line, say you're trolling upriver, and you're just trolling in a straight line, you're not getting any bites. That's when you got to start turning, twisting. You could come at a fish. The fish are all piled up, all upstream, and you run this Rapala over them, okay? They're going over their head. I'll go like this. They won't turn to look at it. But if you rip this Rapala and come at them at a different angle and you rip it, you get what I call a reaction strike. They can't say no. If that Rapala is above their head and all of a sudden it speeds up, their instinct is it's trying to get away from them. So that's where you get your reaction strike. I'd say half my fish are caught on reaction strikes, pulling crankbaits. And it always helps to use a little bit of scent too. I'm a big believer in this lure lipstick. Just like hunting, you want to cover your scent. I smoke, we're drinking, whatever. Anything you get on your lure smells bad. This covers that up. Helps a lot.
Now, I love that you're talking about this night trolling because, quite frankly, this is, gosh, our first fishing trip that we ever had together. Brian and Josh and I, well, I was going to say we all barely knew each other. Josh and I knew each other. But, you know, we met Brian for the first time, and it was really, really exciting because one thing that Brian did is and I don't know if you do this every time, I think you said you do, but you put a number of fish like on the night. And I was shocked, you know, we actually were able to catch the number of fish that you said for that evening. But doing all of the different things that you're saying, you know, if you're ripping the rig in the right way, and then you're using the lure lipstick. And, I found that I learned a lot from you that night. And, to be honest, I think I'd even have to go a second time to even learn it all, you know. But that is one of the coolest things about fishing with somebody that you don't normally fish with or going out with a guide, is because you can go out, you can have a great night, you can catch a ton of fish. But when you can learn something, that's super cool.
And that's with me. When you fish with me, when you leave fishing with me, you're going to be a little smarter. You're going to know what it takes to catch fish out here. And that's important. That's an important part of a guide's job. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for his knowledge.
Well, honestly, if I were to pay you, I would pay you for the stories that end up happening when the trip is over with. Because what Emily's not telling you is Brian invited us up for an evening bite. And we're like, oh, okay. And he was really nice. He's like, hey, you know, we met a little bit, and let's have dinner before we go fishing. He's, oh, okay, that's awesome. Makes it a fantastic fish fry. Probably one of the best fish fries ever. And then we're like, oh, it's getting kind of late here. And he's like, oh, well, we got a little bit. And before we know it, we're in the boat and it's getting dark and
the sun is like setting already.
Now it's now all of a sudden we're catching all these fish, and then it's like 2:30 in the morning. We had to go to work the next day.
We didn't know. We didn't know that we were like night fishing. It was so funny.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is when you can hire a guide and when the story is almost worth more, the story and the knowledge is almost worth more than the fish that you catch. I'm never gonna forget that night. Honestly, it's actually one of the memories we have hanging up in our house is a picture that Emily and I took in the garage of how late it was. And so, yeah, you know,
well, hey, but we didn't have the pressure when we were out there. There's a few boats out there, and I know it's hard to remember all these numbers and stuff, but I usually, when I got a client coming in, I say, okay, 30 fish tonight. I don't know what it was, you guys. I think it's probably, that's a good number. I usually pick is 30. I think we hit that mark that night, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe even 2 more.
That's what I like. I like to hit that mark or go above. And it's funny because I get clients and I tell them how many fish we're going to catch. You know, I'll point that 30, and I get some looks that look at me like I'm crazy, and add mark.
Well, and I guess the other thing that I should point out, and it sounds like a lie until you can go there, but we're not talking about like 30 like 10-inch fish, you know. No, we are talking about like some of the best walleye that you have ever seen, and it's hard to make that claim, because how can somebody go out and catch so many big fish? But I think you have a few things really in your favor. You have a really cool location, and you have the know-how of how to do it, because you have a very pressured fishing area. People go through all the time. But the thing about it is when you can either do something different enough or do something right enough. And that's why I love hearing you talk about that reaction strike.
Yeah, it's just, fishing is this. Little things you do make such a big difference. All the little things you do, putting a red hook on the front of your bait, putting lure lipstick on, making a special leader, tying a special knot, just little things you do. It might not be just the one little thing you do. It might be a accumulation of all the little things you're doing that are putting fish in a boat. Pay attention to details.
It's funny that you just ended with that, because, even just those little tips that you threw out, those are the things that you pay attention to, because those are the little details that make a difference. So, I love sitting here talking with you, but I even love talking to a lot of the guides that we've talked to, because sometimes people overlook those tiny little things. And sometimes that's what makes the biggest difference. So I love hearing about that.
Yeah. And we've also been able to take some of those tips and apply it by our house on some fishing trips that we've been in on other places. And so it doesn't only work where you're fishing, but you can take that. Brian's giving you a skill that you can take and use your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of clients that have taken stuff they learned from me and they put it to their home body and it works there too. Jerry Huffer, pulling them crankbaits. I got him ease up on the Rock River and he's like, I'm catching bigger fish than anybody else. So there you go.
Well, and the one other thing that we did not experience, but I'm sure one day we will, is you were talking about when you go night fishing like that, sometimes you even have a chance at, a giant muskie. And I know, because I've been to your house, you have one of those on the wall.
Yeah, I got a 56 on the wall. And I got a stringer of walleyes that the smallest one is 30.5. Is this battery charged on here?
It's plugged in.
Can I show the fish? If I unplug it? So just unplug this one? I don't need the mouse on here either.
No. Unplug it.
Well, I don't want one.
Okay, everybody at home, hold tight, because this is worth it.
Definitely.
I'll bring you to my. We're going for a walk. Oh, you almost seen who was here. That's my walleyes.
Okay, so this is what we're talking about when we're
And
talking
there's
night
my
fishing.
muskie.
That is really amazing.
Oh, we got to show one of
honestly.
Cindy's fish. That's Cindy's brown.
Nice.
Okay, I'll take you back where I was.
So tell us, how big were those fish on that stringer?
The smallest one is 30.5 and the biggest one is 33.5 inches. I think 10 3/4 pounds and the biggest one is 13.5.
That's crazy.
That's a very large stringer.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
So after that night fishing,
And that's what I'm about. When you come
ahead.
with me, number one is you're supposed to have fun. That's the number one thing, is fun. The fish are the second thing, putting fish in a boat, but number one is you got to have fun.
Yeah.
That's absolutely. So after the night fishing kind of wanes off, what comes next in your open water lineup?
Well, I'll night fish all year long pretty much.
Okay.
But after the walleyes are done, then it'll be smallmouth, and then it's daytime again. And we got a great smallmouth fishery here too. Just phenomenal. My biggest is 7 pounds, 1 ounce.
Ooh.
But a lot of 6 pounders, a lot of 5, 6 pounders. And again, those bass days, those are 30 plus fish days also.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the other trips that we were able to take with you and Cindy, actually. That was a really super fun day. And I really got to admit, going out for bass, I mean, yeah, that can be fun. But I hate to keep reiterating this. I learned so much that day because I was able to catch quite a few fish when we were out there, and some pretty big fish again. So that was crazy. And the cool thing about being able to catch fish is, you know, I'm not that much of a bass person. I just don't do it all the time. I love doing it. But when you can catch enough fish that you can learn a trend, when you can start to trust a bait and build some confidence, again, that's been something that's been really, really fun to try to apply again in other situations.
You know, if it swims and it pulls on the end of my rod, I'm in. Perch, bass, walleyes, muskies, trout, whatever. Rookies, doesn't matter.
That's fun. So while we're talking about smallmouth, what is your bait of choice for that?
Plastics. In the fall, I fish the upper part of the river, and what happens in the spring is those fish, they spawn, and then they stretch out way up. And there's like 20 miles between the dams. So they stretch all up. Well, in the fall, they all wintered back down in the deeper water. So they all congregate on the points. So what I do is suckers. I like using suckers. You can't miss with a sucker. You know, you got clients, like I said, different skill levels too. If you got somebody that's really skilled, well, I can use plastics, then we'll use plastics, but you just can't beat live bait in the fall. Suckers are just phenomenal.
Well, and, you know, not to kind of switch subjects, but the other thing that I kind of think about when I think of smallmouth, and I'm sure that it's not what you think of at all, but a different fishing adventure of ours that we were using some different baits. I know I'm being really vague. I'm going to come right back around and this all makes sense. But we were on this fishing trip and we had some pretty big hooks out, and one of the fish that we pulled up was a smallie. And I'm not even kidding. Okay, for the people at home, Brian takes his fish off this line. He's like, this is not what we're fishing for. I'm like, no, wait. I'm like, this is like a giant smallmouth. Okay, so I was super thrilled. Take my picture of it. We let it go. But do you know what we actually were fishing for that day?
Yep, sturgeon.
Yeah. So that is actually a really exciting thing that not everyone gets the chance to do. So, I mean, I guess tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, the sturgeon fishing is fun. You caught a monster last year, Emily. You made the front of the calendar. That was you caught that big giant, and then Josh caught this one about that big. It was
that's true, but I did lift that fish into the boat.
Josh's fish. Sorry, Josh.
That's okay. It happens to the best of us.
It does. It does. Know that all too well, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about sturgeon season. You know, when does that go on? What does that bite look like?
The first Saturday in September, and it runs to the last day of September. And it's all catch and release down here. If you go up above, you can actually catch and keep them. They got to be 60 inches or better. But I have no desire to kill a big fish like that. That fish is older than I am, you know. So no desire to kill them at all. Just fun to catch. I like seeing smiles on people's faces when you pull them up. It's just awesome.
Oh gosh. And I do always have to laugh because, you know, you fight a good fish. I mean, sturgeon aside, you fight a good fish and, you know, you have a minute or two that you're reeling them in. But when you do get back to sturgeon and, you know, sometimes that fight is way, way longer than that, you know? And so you get a minute in, you get 2 minutes in, you get 3 minutes in, and then you start thinking about different aspects that you don't always think about, you know, like is my tackle, like is a hook going to straighten out? You know, that's a crazy thing. Is my line going to break? Oh, hopefully not.
Yeah,
you know,
I remember what you said to me. I remember, Emily. Oh, I hope you tied a good knot, Brian. I always tie good knots. I thought to myself, why did you even say that?
Yeah, I was like 10 minutes into the fight, too. In a 25-minute fight or whatever it was.
Emily just wanted to see me sweat a little bit. I knew I tied a good knot, though.
Oh my gosh, that is excellent. That was awesome.
You did such a good job at reeling that fish in, Emily. That memory will be in my brain until I'm gone off this earth. For sure.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. So, I mean, we've talked about so many different fishing trips, and we still have some things to talk about, but let's sneak this in here. Do you have openings yet for this year if people were looking to take a trip?
Oh, yeah. I got openings for walleyes coming up yet. I got openings for sturgeon. I got openings for bass. Give me a call. I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay, awesome. So I'm sure that the people at home are wondering that and thinking about that. So that is good to know going forward. But, you know, guiding aside, the other place that we tend to see the face of BAC is on the Larry Smith Outdoor Show. And so I love watching that. But you even made a recent appearance there.
Yeah, that Larry guy, I heard he didn't make your little podcaster you got going.
Yeah, he may have bailed on us to go fishing in Big Green Lake, but
I
can't
don't know.
blame him.
He was on the lake. He was on the lake. He honestly thought that we were calling him. He didn't realize he needed to log in. So another time, Larry.
Yeah, he's a busy guy, and you know, I honestly don't know how that guy does it, because if I end up with him for 2 or 3, 4 days in a row, my ass is dragging. So he's got way more energy than I do. I'll tell you that much. But he is a great guy. I love shooting shows with him. He is just so much fun to be around. And like, again, I'm coming back to this. It's about having fun and having a good time. And if you love the people you're around, you're always going to have a good time.
Well, and you know, the recent show that you guys had, that was super evident. Watching Larry in his new airboat, that was really a ton of fun. And did I even see you riding out there on that?
Oh yeah, Cindy got an airboat ride too. We had a blast. That's my first airboat ride too.
Yeah, that's fun. Really cool.
I'm sure there'll be more riding in the future.
Yeah. Well, and then when you guys were out there, you caught quite a few pike. So tell us a little bit about the bite that day.
I think we had 23 fish that day. We had probably 35 flags. Yeah, I'm going to run that next winter too. I usually don't. I do a little bit of guiding in the winter, but next year I'm going to ramp it up a little bit more. So I'll be running that northern trip for next year. Actually, I'm going to have an ice house built, so I'll have a nice warm place to sit and throw tip-ups out and cook some food and have some fun.
That's really awesome. And you know, the show, it showed all the different baits that they were using, and they were kind of using an array because, to be honest, I think that they were out with, is it Magic Bait Company? Yep. But you know, there were some big pike that were pulled up too, so that always makes an exciting trip.
Yeah, the pike out there, the average size is phenomenal. They're nice fish. And again, too, if you watched us, I'm big at, you know, those big females, let them go. Let them go. They're still there then, and they're producing babies, making more fish. A lot of people don't like pike, but I'll tell you what, that's one of my favorite fish to eat is our pike. If you know how to clean them, they are just awesome. Awesome table fare.
I never thought I'd hear those words from you, BAC, because if I know anything about you, the fish that you like eating is perch.
I love my perch. I'll tell you what, my number one is to eat those brookies. You know, you throw them brookies, a little pat of butter and a little bit of Walleyes or seasoning salt and just pan fried. There's nothing better. That's my favorite to eat by far.
Well, and I've got to say, taking cooking advice from BAC is definitely a good choice because you honestly have one of the best fish fries I've ever had.
I appreciate that. I see you guys got a little outdoor cooker like I got now. I see you frying fish just like the way I do.
Yeah, little timer and everything.
Well, that's what it's about, though. You learn from other people, you know, and if you find something that's really good and you enjoy it, that's the way you want to have it, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, Cindy and I have a hard time going anyplace else to eat fish. If I didn't catch it, I didn't clean it, and I didn't cook it, most likely I don't want to eat it.
So what is the key to a good fish fry?
Depending on, you know, number one, it's got to be cleaned properly. You got to take care of your catch. Some people you watch in the summertime, they got 4 or 5 walleyes in their live well. They're upside down. They're all white. They've been in there half the day. Their water's 75, 80 degrees. I don't want to eat that. You know, If they die and it's warm, put them on ice. Take care of your catch. Number 2, when you clean them, make sure you see how I clean my fish. I take all that dark meat off. Any dark meat, on a fish is real fishy tasting, real strong fishy tasting. And if there's any contaminants in a fish, that's where the contaminants are too. So you get rid of all that dark meat. And then the next thing is when you got to have clean oil. Make sure you filter it or fresh oil. I like 360 degrees. 360, a perch fillet about that big, minute and a half, no more. You just kind of got to watch it. Most people overcook their fish. When you break a piece of fish, you want it to glisten at you. You want it to just, sparkle all nice and flaky, moist. You don't want it all dried out.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And then the great debate, tartar sauce or no tartar sauce?
It depends again on what kind of fish you're eating. We got a really good tartar sauce recipe, so I really like the tartar sauce that we got. But I usually eat half of what I'm going to eat without tartar sauce, and then just to change up the taste a little bit, the second portion tartar sauce.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited next year. I'm thinking about your ice shack that you have out there. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I can't wait for that. We didn't get on ice with you this year. So I'm looking forward to next year for that. Oh gosh, I got distracted by the rivers, the crappies on the river. It's a true statement.
You all know how I feel about them crappies. They're fun to catch, but they're just like a very soft flesh fish, and then they just don't taste good to me. But I'm spoiled. We're eating perch and walleyes and pike and brookies. If I didn't eat for 3 days and you had a big pile of crappies and I cooked them up, that'd be the best fish I had in 3 days.
That is a good point, though, that, everyone does get to have that opinion and that there is a nice variety out there. There are people who like to eat bass. There are people who eat panfish, perch, whatever. You get that choice. And that was kind of a fun thing like tonight. You kind of fish for everything. So, that's been fun to kind of talk about the range of it as well.
Yeah, I'm a multi-species guide. I just go through the seasons. Whatever's biting the best is what I'm going to jump on. There's times a year where there's 3 different species biting really good. Well, then you get to pick which one you want to catch. But if we jump on one and we're not doing that good, we can always jump to something else.
And that does make it actually really fun. So if somebody were to call for a guide trip, then you can choose one of 2 routes. I'm going to choose a season. I want to go out when the weather is great, hopefully in the summer or whatever, fine. Or you can say, I'm looking for a nice walleye. I'm looking for a nice smallie. I'm looking for a sturgeon, whatever it is. And certainly you have the expertise behind that to literally guide that trip.
Yep. It's whatever people want to do. I'm upfront to and honest. Like I said, I'll pick a number out, 30 fish tonight. Somebody will come and be like, we're going to do 20 fish tonight. Cause I pretty much know what's going on. I'm on the water almost every day. So I got things locked in pretty good, but yeah, that's lots of years of doing, experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. And remind us again.
I'll say this again too.
Yeah.
I tell everybody that I know I'm never going to make $1 million doing what I'm doing, but I have $1 million worth of fun every day, and that's what's important to me.
Absolutely.
And remind us again your phone number.
715-735-7346. That's my home phone. You got to leave a message. Once I fish with you, then you get in my cell phone, and then when you're in my cell phone, I usually got a picture of you holding a fish. So if you call me on my cell phone, once you get my cell phone number and you're holding a fish, that's an important call. I usually answer that one right
away. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And then the other thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I get a lot of questions too, people asking questions, and I don't mind answering questions if I have the time to. But if I got clients, I don't want to be, on the phone answering questions when I got people that are paying me to take care of them. So that's why I do the home phone. I have a landline yet, but there's a reason why I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and I was just going to say the other thing is if you are looking to get a trip as a gift for somebody else, I think I've also seen that you have like a certificate.
Yep. Cindy does certificates for us.
Awesome. So that makes a great gift. Maybe I'm going to convince Josh to get me a trip coming up here. But we do have some really exciting fishing coming up, so I really cannot wait for that.
What have you guys been up to? Did you take the boat out yet?
This weekend, we got her all ready. We put 2 brand new trolling motor batteries in there last weekend and got her kind of cleaned out. And then it got cold and snowy on us again, but we'll be out probably Saturday, if not Sunday. We'll see how much we get, how much blowing it gets.
Awesome. See if you can guess who this guy is.
Hey,
Right here.
I was wondering why you both had your sweatshirts on.
Lemmer's coming to catch some fish with me tomorrow. And I got Kevin Dempsey tomorrow, too. So I got Kevin and this guy in the boat tomorrow.
So how many fish are you going to catch, buddy?
We're not going to do 30, I don't think, but we'll see. It's early.
How about 130 incher?
His first fish with me, we weren't in the boat. You tell the story.
Yeah, we're in the boat. First time I met Brian, we're in the boat. Probably 2 hours. Went up towards the mouth more, dropped down. He said, "Now don't get this snag," because they're using heavy weights, for 3-ways. And I'm like, "I think I got this snag." No, wait a minute, that's a fish. 30.5 incher. First fish was BAC.
First fish he caught with me is a 30.5-inch walleye.
That's awesome.
I thought, man, this guy's gonna chew me up with a snag right away.
Hey, after that, the pressure was off.
That's such a cool story.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I feel like, is it okay to introduce you while you're here? So John Lemmer, you are kind of the mastermind behind Extreme Plastics. So we can see on your sweatshirt, we were able to talk about that a little bit tonight. Do you have anything to add about Extreme Plastics while you're here?
I
didn't know you would be here either. I didn't prepare for this.
That's why we left it alone.
Here's my favorite one right there for bass and walleyes.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'll
awesome.
make just about any color you need. Whatever. I'll make custom colors for whatever people need. I don't want to make stuff that's going to sit in somebody's box forever. I want to make stuff that they need, that they want to use, so to speak. Because I don't want to make this baits that catch fish, man. I want to make baits that catch fish.
Right.
And he does, because I catch a lot of fish on his plastics.
I try, so.
Well,
we caught guys off guard, didn't we? Totally.
Gotcha.
Emily's speechless.
Well, and I was going to say for people at home, Brian has a really fun Facebook page to watch. He posts pictures. Extreme Plastics is a great page to watch. You guys post a ton of pictures. So, if people at home are looking for either of those things, I would definitely go and check both those out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And thanks again for being on.
Hey, no problem. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Tomorrow's trip, maybe?
Well, I'll send them pictures when we're done tomorrow. For sure.
Yeah, we cannot wait to see that.
If you just watch my Facebook page, you'll see exactly what's being caught around here, too. I don't hide nothing. I might stand up so you can't see the background or do little things, but you just look at my Facebook page and tell what we're catching.
Yeah.
Like Brian says, it's just about having fun, and Brian's probably the most honest person you ever fish with, the most fun person to fish with. He's one of my faves. So,
and I pride myself on that, being honest, and just try to be an honest guy.
And you know me, Josh, I'll say like it is.
Yeah.
We got to have you back to get that bunny head back on again, Josh.
I know.
Bunny dance.
Somebody else is wearing it on the Larry Smith show, I saw.
Did you watch the show? Remember I told you I was going to put you on the spot.
I did.
You did. Did you see Johnny with the bunny head on?
Yeah. That was funny.
That bunny head's been around.
Oh my goodness. Awesome. Well, we're going to have you guys hang tight here for a second, and then we'll say goodbye to you in a whole nother minute. But otherwise, Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Anytime, you guys. Anytime. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Talk to you a sec.
All right.
Well, what a fun show.
That was a lot of fun. And the awesome thing about being with Brian is that certainly you're going to learn a lot. So,
Yeah.
From stinger hooks to the baits that are being used to, just all the trips that are out there, there's a lot to be had.
All kinds of fish. And it's, if you say here through the whole thing, you heard all the stories, and that's just the long ones.
Awesome. And, definitely getting us excited for the open water season to come. And our boat will be hitting the water soon too. So let us know if you're still on ice somewhere crazy. I would love to be there. I'm jealous. Otherwise, let us know how your open water season is going. And we can't wait to see you next week.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody.